Jonathan worked as an office assistant at one of the most respected law firms in the city. Day after day, he handled paperwork, answered phones, and ran errands for lawyers who barely noticed his presence. Most people in the firm assumed he was an intern or temporary hire, a nobody who lacked a college degree and, therefore, any real future in law. But Jonathan didn't mind the anonymity. He valued hard work and saw his role as a chance to learn, hoping one day he might achieve something greater. One rainy evening, while staying late to finish organizing case files, Jonathan crossed paths with Richard, a successful junior associate known for his sharp mind and even sharper tongue. Richard was well-dressed, always immaculately groomed, and took pride in his prestigious education. Upon noticing Jonathan's worn suit and humble demeanor, Richard sneered. "You might want to stick to copying papers," he muttered under his breath, a smirk playing on his lips. Jonathan felt the sting of Richard's words, but instead of retorting, he focused on his work, determined not to let one man's contempt shape his future. Despite moments like these, Jonathan found small joys in his day-to-day duties. He admired the attorneys for their knowledge and expertise and secretly hoped that, one day, he'd earn his place among them. But for now, he remained a silent observer, gleaning insights from each legal document he touched and every conversation he overheard. The partners of the firm seemed like giants, and he was nothing but a shadow among them. Yet, that shadow held hopes and dreams no one else could see. It was during one of the firm's annual events that Jonathan was invited as a matter of formality. He was a bit out of place among the lawyers and their polished manners, but he did his best to blend in, admiring the luxurious setting from a respectful distance. To his surprise, he found himself seated next to Eleanor, the managing partner's wife. Eleanor was graceful and elegant, with an air of quiet wisdom. She struck up a conversation with Jonathan, asking about his work and background with genuine curiosity. Jonathan was caught off guard by her kindness but soon found himself sharing stories of his modest upbringing and his desire to one day contribute to the legal field. Their conversation drew curious glances, especially from Richard, who watched from across the room with disdain. Seeing Jonathan engaged with someone of Eleanor's stature irked him, and he couldn't resist making a sarcastic comment when he passed their table. "Are you regaling Mrs. Whitmore with tales of filing cabinets and copy machines?" Richard quipped, laughing at his own joke. Jonathan felt a flush of embarrassment but kept his composure, returning to his seat. Eleanor, noticing his discomfort, shot Richard a disapproving look and continued speaking to Jonathan as if nothing had happened, further fueling Richard's resentment. The next morning, Eleanor appeared at the firm again, this time on official business. She asked for Jonathan specifically, much to the astonishment of everyone, including Richard. Eleanor explained that she needed help with organizing a charity project she was overseeing, and Jonathan seemed the perfect assistant for the task. Although surprised, Jonathan accepted the role, unsure of why she would choose him but grateful for the opportunity. Over the next few days, they worked together closely, and Jonathan began to see a different side of Eleanor. She was not only compassionate but had a keen understanding of the struggles faced by underprivileged communities. As they planned events and scholarship programs, Eleanor listened to Jonathan's ideas and valued his opinions, building an unexpected bond between them. Richard, who had always looked down on Jonathan, was infuriated by his growing closeness with Eleanor. Seeing him walking alongside her, discussing plans, only fueled Richard's disdain. One afternoon, as Jonathan passed by his office, Richard couldn't resist a final jab. "I wonder how much longer she'll keep you around. Charity work must get boring eventually," he said, smirking. Jonathan felt the words sting, but he reminded himself of his purpose. He had a role to play, and he wouldn't let petty remarks distract him. Eleanor had placed her trust in him, and that was all he needed to stay motivated. One evening, Eleanor and Jonathan were the last to leave the office. Jonathan noticed her struggling with her coat and, without hesitation, offered to help. Eleanor thanked him, and they shared a quiet moment, discussing the project they were working on. Jonathan's sincere dedication touched her, and she offered him words of encouragement that he would carry with him. Unbeknownst to him, this small gesture made a deep impression on Eleanor. She began to see Jonathan not only as an assistant but as someone whose heart aligned with her own values. She appreciated his empathy and humility, qualities that reminded her of why she was passionate about her own work. A few days later, Eleanor returned to the firm and requested Jonathan's assistance on another personal matter. This time, she was organizing a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth, and she wanted Jonathan's input on how to connect with students who had potential but lacked opportunities. Jonathan, who had faced similar struggles, felt deeply invested in the project. He worked tirelessly to research programs, write proposals, and contact schools. Eleanor was impressed by his work ethic and attention to detail. For Jonathan, this was more than a job, it was a chance to make a real difference. As Jonathan's responsibilities grew, so did his passion for the work. Eleanor noticed how dedicated he was, and it made her feel confident that she'd chosen the right person. Together, they managed to set up several initiatives, including mentoring programs and financial aid for students from low-income families. Eleanor saw how deeply he cared, and for the first time, Jonathan felt truly respected in his role. He was doing more than just supporting Eleanor, he was helping create opportunities for others, and that filled him with pride. Word of Jonathan's work with Eleanor spread through the office, and Richard's resentment deepened. He saw Jonathan's involvement as undeserved and often made snide remarks about favors for the underqualified. The other employees listened, but few dared to speak against Richard, who was still highly influential. Despite the negativity, Jonathan kept his head down, focusing on his work. He knew that the real reward was not in titles or prestige but in the impact he was making alongside Eleanor. Jonathan continued to encounter skepticism and ridicule from others, especially from Richard. However, he maintained his resolve, driven by the knowledge that he was contributing to something meaningful. Every harsh word only strengthened his determination to prove himself through his actions, not his words. He began to view the work he was doing as a way to honor his own dreams, ignoring the naysayers and trusting that his hard work would eventually speak for itself. As the weeks went by, Jonathan and Eleanor formed a close friendship. She confided in him about her own past challenges and the obstacles she had faced early in her career. Eleanor's words gave Jonathan hope, and he admired her resilience and humility. Their bond was one of mutual respect, something that had taken root through shared values and hard work. Jonathan realized that the lessons he was learning went far beyond any textbook or degree. Richard, feeling overshadowed and envious, decided to publicly humiliate Jonathan during a meeting, mocking his lack of education and ambition in front of the entire firm. Jonathan felt the weight of everyone's eyes on him, but he took a deep breath, reminding himself that his worth wasn't defined by others' opinions. Eleanor witnessed the exchange and stepped in to defend Jonathan, stating firmly that character and kindness were more valuable than any title or degree. Her words silenced Richard, leaving him red-faced and bitter. After their last project together, Eleanor called Jonathan into her office. She handed him an envelope with a soft smile. Inside was an acceptance letter from a prestigious university, and Eleanor explained that she had arranged a scholarship in his name, recognizing his dedication and potential. Jonathan was overwhelmed, thanking her with tears in his eyes. Eleanor simply told him, "You earned this, Jonathan. Keep proving that kindness and hard work matter. Jonathan's last day at the firm was filled with mixed emotions. He felt immense gratitude but also sadness to leave Eleanor and the projects they had started together. Eleanor reminded him that his journey was just beginning, and he left the office with a heart full of gratitude. He knew this new chapter was an incredible opportunity, and he intended to make the most of it, honoring the faith Eleanor had shown in him. At university, Jonathan faced new challenges as he adjusted to student life. Balancing work and study was difficult, but every hardship reminded him of Eleanor's faith in him. Her encouragement became his guiding light as he poured himself into his studies. The same dedication that had once served Eleanor now served him well, allowing him to excel academically and grow in confidence. As time passed, Jonathan rose through academic ranks, consistently achieving top marks and earning a reputation for his insightful perspectives. The professors, impressed by his dedication, began recommending him for internships at prestigious law firms. Every achievement was a silent tribute to Eleanor, who had believed in him when no one else did. Jonathan often reflected on how far he'd come, marveling at the doors that opened through patience and hard work. During his third year, Jonathan secured an internship at a reputable firm. Though he started with minor tasks, much like in his previous role, he quickly gained the trust of his supervisors. He tackled challenging assignments with the same determination that had carried him through his early days, earning the admiration of his colleagues. This time, he wasn't just a shadow in the background, he was starting to make a name for himself. One evening, Jonathan attended a law association event, a rare opportunity for both professionals and rising students to network. To his surprise, he ran into Richard. A few years had changed both men. Jonathan's quiet humility had grown into confident grace, while Richard, though still impeccably dressed, appeared slightly worn. Richard noticed him but seemed unsure of how to approach, given their tumultuous past. Jonathan offered a courteous nod, treating Richard with respect, but refraining from dwelling on the past. Richard, visibly taken aback, struggled to mask his surprise. "It's been a while," he muttered awkwardly. Jonathan acknowledged him politely, sensing that Richard's life hadn't unfolded as he had once envisioned. Jonathan's presence, however, reminded him of his own aspirations, motivating him to remain focused on his new path. Jonathan's courteous encounter with Richard left him reflecting on the bitterness and rivalry that had once defined their relationship. He knew he held the power to reproach Richard, but instead, he chose kindness. Forgiving him wasn't easy, but Jonathan felt a sense of freedom letting go of past resentments. In his journey, he'd learned that grace often spoke louder than grudges. Weeks later, Jonathan received a message from Richard, seeking guidance on his own career struggles. Despite the difficult memories, Jonathan agreed to meet him for coffee. Richard arrived, visibly humbled, confessing that he admired Jonathan's resilience. As they talked, Jonathan found himself advising Richard, realizing that Eleanor's influence had prepared him to be compassionate, even to those who had wronged him. As Jonathan graduated with honors, he was approached by a senior partner from one of the city's most renowned law firms, where Eleanor's husband served as a lead partner. The offer was beyond his wildest dreams, a junior partner position that included the chance to lead social initiatives for underrepresented communities. Jonathan felt honored, recognizing how Eleanor's belief in him had helped him arrive here. Accepting the offer, Jonathan moved forward with purpose. He knew his work would contribute to justice and equality, the same values that had inspired Eleanor's guidance. His position now allowed him to champion causes close to his heart, an embodiment of her legacy that he carried with him every day. At Jonathan's induction ceremony, he scanned the crowd, spotting Eleanor among the guests. Her expression was one of quiet pride, her eyes reflecting the journey he'd undertaken. Jonathan felt a surge of gratitude, knowing he'd reached this place because of her faith in him. Their shared glance conveyed more than words ever could, a silent acknowledgement of the path he traveled. As the evening continued, colleagues congratulated Jonathan on his achievements, unaware of Eleanor's profound impact on his life. She remained a silent supporter, content to see him thrive. Jonathan promised himself he would honor her trust and keep alive the values she had instilled in him, letting kindness and dedication define his future. Several months into his new role, Jonathan attended a professional conference where he once again encountered Richard. This time, however, the dynamic had shifted entirely. Richard had fallen behind in his career, while Jonathan was an esteemed junior partner. Despite the history between them, Jonathan greeted Richard warmly, extending genuine kindness. Richard, humbled, expressed regret for his past behavior, acknowledging Jonathan's strength and grace. Jonathan accepted his apology with sincerity, knowing that bitterness could only hold him back. Their interaction was a testament to Jonathan's growth and maturity, a reflection of Eleanor's influence that reminded him to always approach others with empathy. Feeling the need to express his appreciation, Jonathan visited Eleanor to personally thank her for the life-changing opportunity she had provided. In her warm study, they reminisced about their journey, each recalling memories from the past with smiles. Eleanor reminded him that his success was a testament to his own hard work and dedication, though Jonathan insisted her support had paved the way. Eleanor shared that seeing him thrive was one of her proudest achievements. Jonathan left with a renewed sense of purpose, deeply committed to upholding the values Eleanor had embodied. Her kindness had transformed his life, and he intended to continue that legacy through every step he took. Jonathan's reputation flourished as he dedicated himself to the causes he and Eleanor had championed. Known for his integrity and compassion, he was sought after not only for his legal skills but also for his dedication to supporting vulnerable communities. His work began to attract media attention, highlighting his commitment to social justice and the impact he was making. Colleagues and clients alike were moved by Jonathan's story of rising from humble beginnings, inspired by his dedication to empowering others. Eleanor, though now retired, followed his career with pride, knowing that she had played a role in shaping the man he had become. Inspired by Eleanor's legacy, Jonathan founded a scholarship program in her name, offering educational opportunities to young people facing economic hardship. He hoped the scholarship would support future leaders who, like him, needed a second chance. The program attracted attention, and Jonathan became a mentor to many of its recipients, encouraging them to stay resilient in the face of adversity. Jonathan's scholarship transformed lives, just as Eleanor's influence had changed his own. He realized that her kindness continued to impact the world in ways she might never have imagined, sparking a legacy that extended far beyond her original vision. One quiet afternoon, Jonathan found himself revisiting his childhood neighborhood, reflecting on the humble beginnings that had once felt inescapable. As he walked the familiar streets, memories of past struggles filled him with a deep sense of gratitude. He now understood the value of Eleanor's faith and the importance of using one's success to lift others. Jonathan took a moment to appreciate the journey he had traveled. He promised himself that he would never forget where he came from or the values Eleanor had instilled in him, grounding his future achievements in humility and compassion. Years later, Jonathan attended a charity event and ran into Richard, who was now facing professional and personal challenges. Jonathan approached him with kindness, offering encouragement. Richard confided in him about the difficulties he'd encountered and expressed regret for the past. Jonathan listened, showing the same grace Eleanor had taught him. Through their conversation, Jonathan understood that kindness could inspire growth in even the most unlikely people. He hoped that his example might offer Richard a chance to learn from his mistakes, realizing that every interaction held the potential to change lives. Jonathan's scholarship fund began yielding incredible results. Young students from difficult backgrounds wrote to him, sharing stories of how his support had changed their lives. Jonathan was moved by their letters, reminded of Eleanor's early guidance, and inspired by the idea that he was part of something bigger than himself. The success of the scholarship filled him with a renewed commitment to the cause. Knowing that he was carrying forward Eleanor's legacy, he felt a profound sense of responsibility to continue helping others, honoring her impact on his life by paying it forward. One winter afternoon, Jonathan received a letter from Eleanor. Now fully retired, she expressed her pride in his achievements, acknowledging that her belief in him had been one of the best decisions of her life. She thanked him for honoring her values and for carrying forward the torch of kindness and compassion they had built together. Jonathan was deeply moved. He had become a reflection of Eleanor's hopes, and her words resonated with him as a reminder of their shared vision. Her influence had extended beyond her own career, and he felt privileged to have contributed to her enduring legacy. Some months later, Eleanor passed away peacefully. Jonathan was heartbroken but found solace in a farewell letter she had left him. In it, she urged him to continue helping others, to remain humble, and to cherish the values she had instilled in him. Her words were a final gift, reminding him to stay true to the journey they had begun together. With a heavy heart, Jonathan promised himself to honor her memory by dedicating his life to the principles she had lived by. Her kindness had lit a path for him, and he was determined to keep that light burning. At Eleanor's memorial, Jonathan spoke about her influence on his life, sharing stories of her generosity and compassion. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered to honor her memory, each person recounting how Eleanor had touched their lives. Her legacy was clear. She had left an indelible mark on the world, inspiring countless others to live with kindness. Jonathan left the service feeling a profound sense of responsibility. Eleanor's legacy was his to carry forward, and he felt honored to keep her memory alive by dedicating his work to the values she held dear. In the years that followed, Jonathan continued to expand his scholarship program and dedicated himself to helping others in need. His work became a beacon of hope for those facing hardships, embodying the values Eleanor had championed. He was respected not only for his legal expertise but for his unwavering commitment to kindness. Jonathan's journey was far from over, and he remained dedicated to building a world where compassion and generosity were cherished. He knew that every life he touched was a testament to Eleanor's enduring influence. Years later, Jonathan attended the graduation of a student supported by his scholarship. Watching them accept their diploma, he was reminded of his own path and the journey Eleanor had set him on. As the student approached to thank him, Jonathan felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing he had honored Eleanor's legacy. Reflecting on his life, Jonathan realized that Eleanor's kindness had transformed his destiny, inspiring him to pass on the same gift to others. His journey had come full circle, proving that kindness, resilience, and empathy held the power to shape lives and create lasting change.